we designed a strategy that we created what we call our 4-pillar model, and we busy executing that. So I can maybe talk about that if it's going to be helpful.
Welcome to today's episode of the 7-Figure Journey podcast. We have Jay van Zyl with us from, I did it just now, ecosystem.ai. I just about made that plural when I wasn't supposed to. Jay, welcome to the show. We're so delighted to have you on.
Thank you, David. Glad to be here. Looking forward to a great conversation.
Jay, you're working in a fascinating area. You're helping to do predictive modeling using AI and things to understand human behavior and need so that people can better serve them, meet them where they're at when they're in a very confusing, difficult time. I know you serve banks, insurance companies, those kinds of things with your technology. But what was fascinating to me was just how widespread your team is across the globe. And and the deep level of partnerships that you're getting with your customers so early in your business life cycle. So tell us just a little bit about you and how you got started in this in the first place.
Yeah, that's that's a very interesting question because everybody have got a story around, either deliberate or by accident. I think mine was probably more by accident. My previous organization are focused heavily on product and consulting, and I kind of drew a line in the sand with my family saying that we wanted to get out of the services world and purely into product. And being purely on product, as you know, these days in the AI world is very difficult. And starting to solve specific problems, was really the key focus for me to say, well, can we tackle some of the problems that are incredibly tough for companies to get their minds around and see if we can find a solution. And essentially spent 3 years working through detail and research, and with a particular client at the time, and a key member of that client left and joined me, and we built out, and we basically a group of PhDs in computational social science, behavioral economics, applied math, and technology backgrounds. That's kind of who the team is, and we figured that if we can solve a problem, not just theoretically, but find a real benefit, a real pain that we can alleviate for our target clients, we should be successful. That was kind of the thinking. And as it turns out, we got momentum and things are going, and we designed a strategy that we created what we call our 4-pillar model, and we busy executing that. So I can maybe talk about that if it's going to be helpful.
Oh, that's so just a bunch of geeks got together and we're like, let's do something cool together.
Basically, yeah.
But you're solving some really fascinating things. And I love the model of entrepreneurship now is less and less the solo person going out there and figuring something out. It's more and more a team coming together and saying, we can do something exceptional.
Yeah. And I think for us, it was not just about multi-generational, it was about multi-skilling. So we literally have 3 generations. We got younger researchers, and I'm kind of the more, I'd say older, person in the team. You can see by my gray hair. And
you can say it out loud, Jay. It's okay.
And what I found is that as soon as you get to, you get to a point where you look old, and I know that a lot of, my colleagues, at some point you say, well, Jay, come on, it's done, it's finished now, just go home and relax. And they say, no, you can't, there's too much to do. And working with a younger, energized team is unbelievable, and working with people that push you and get you to explore boundaries. And even with my clients who got, a very kind of young, very diverse community, it's really exciting. And I find that's what's been great for us. So the model we put in place was to say, well, if we have something to offer that's useful, how are we going to know? How do you create, thinking safety, if there's such a thing, or psychological safety, if I can use that language, carefully, for us as a team, so that if we get to a point where we know we're not useful, we just abandon the business and we move on to something else. And we created a thing called test, prove, grow, and dominating our sector. So they've got 4 stages. And we said that in the test phase, is there a way that the projects and the problems that we're solving are selected by us based on what we know we are capable of. And we were just really fortunate that the companies we started working with bought into the vision that we said, we can solve this for you. And a couple of years later, we kind of sometimes still think we in test, but we found that we could repeatedly solve a certain set of problems that we could productize. So when we got to prove, we saw that we can make something transportable between banking and telecommunications and insurance, and we could take the same core platform and move it between these sectors, especially sectors who have got service environments with serving their customers. And we found we got some traction, and we now in a stage of going into our first stage of growth. And I guess that's how I got to your podcast in the first place, is the pain that you feel and the things that you have to think about, the reasoning about not just your past, but also your immediate future, and the team you need to bring along with you. Is a pretty tough thing, especially in our world where we are self-funded, because we decided to go at this as a team together rather than finding big external financial partners. We decided to partner with our clients as the focus.
Oh, you're doing it through the actual market and not just through Vegas. It's fantastic. Sorry,
Yeah,
I meant to say VCs.
yeah, exactly.
uh, and what's beautiful about that is you're proving that you belong in the market all along the way. Not just can I convince investors, but are
Yeah,
customers engaged with me, which has been the foundation for you from the beginning. There was
yeah,
something else you talked about that I think would be really valuable. Most of our listeners are organized fairly traditionally, where they've got like, you know, this manager has these people reporting to him, and everyone has a role clarity that they sort of own a seat on the bus. And we try to move them around, keep giving them opportunities, but very traditional in a lot of ways. You decided to tackle the work you're doing a little differently in order to fully engage the capacity and intelligence, opportunity there with your team. Why don't you just talk a little bit about that?
maybe just on the outset, I have to say that it comes with some pain, the approach where you want to decentralize accountability into your team and allow people to organize themselves truly based on their own capabilities. And the decisioning point for us was that if I'm employing somebody that is truly skilled and capable in their discipline, and they might not have all the self-discipline, because that's something that I think most people learn over time, it turns out, but you want to be able to put them on a journey where they truly feel that they can have an impact and a focus that is specific to their own personal achievements, and we bring those then into the collective that makes up the business. So if that's the thinking, then it means that who am I? Is kind of the question in my mind. Who am I to tell you what to do every day? Who am I to put you in a box and say, I expect you to perform these tasks over this time by this time? And so the question is, whenever a team member in our team, critique, give feedback, or interface, you want to understand what is happening first before you contribute. So that means that if I understand what needs to be done and I can do it better than you, I think I can do it better than you, then let's debate it until we figure that out. If I can't, I'll follow you. So that means that style of approach meant that when the team evolved over the last couple of years, we found that skills that initially, were not considered in a person's focus have just, ballooned. It's created this, people have flourished in creating capabilities. We've, like our latest framework for our generative models and how we deploy it in our clients' spaces, we don't want hallucinations and the like, were created by a team that was just fascinating. They were so excited, but there was no box that they fitted into. Now, the ultimate question, and I'm sure, David, you got this in the back of your mind: how do you scale this thing? And that's one of the questions we're going to hopefully discuss later, because you want to retain this, I belong here, I feel that I can contribute and I can use my expertise. And where I have a shortcoming, I want to then find somebody to employ to do that. Not for me to spend all my time trying to fix something I know that I just cannot do. And we grapple with that to find the right interface to keep on filling the gaps of my core team with augmented people coming in to solve those, not for them to agonize over changing who they are. So my personal philosophy is that if I'm really good at something and I really love doing it, I don't need external motivation
Yeah.
because I'm intrinsically motivated. If I can capture that, for me, that's personally been the holy grail of success, I guess. And it's tough. It's been an interesting journey.
Yeah. I mean, now I'm going to push on the edges for the listeners. I mean, you talk about basically, I'm going to call them ad hoc teams, but they're not. They're self-forming around a market need, the team coming together, or an internal business need, saying we need to fix this and tackle it. They're talking with each other. Hey, let's get Bianca. She's fantastic at this. No. Let's get Shireen. Pulling in, right. So I mean, they're self-forming in many ways to say, let's tackle this. Let's get this done. That given project may last them a month or 6 months or a year. We don't even know yet. They're putting that out depending on if they're in the testing, like you were saying. You have a process that everyone knows. This is how we look through things, the lens, and and then and that's all lovely, but your accounting function, do they really jump around to different teams? Or are we talking about product and customer interface stuff?
Yeah, great observation, great question. Because I think that's something that we at the moment we're working through that exercise as we speak to decide if we are even ready for a CFO because it's an outsourced function. It's done with an accounting engineering firm that looks after our activities,
Our
and we've made
books.
a
That's right.
decision. Anything that's not core to the business is outsourced.
Yeah.
Everything. So the people who are in the core are all actively involved in the product and the market building, like you would have with an early stage startup.
Yeah.
And over time, if I want to, get a budget out or a forecast, or I want to review something quickly, it takes a little bit longer because I have an outsourced firm who I have a service level
It's
agreement.
slower. You're in a
It's
queue based on their other stuff going on. They don't
exactly.
really spend the next 60 hours straight solving your problem. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is something we do grapple with a little bit. We do have some of our people in the business that are what we call administratively enabled, where they understand how things work. I mean, we've been through, like, our products are available on Azure, through Microsoft and Amazon AWS marketplaces, and the amount of administration and back end, interfacing and the legal process and everything that had to go into getting that ready is not something that I personally got excited about. But I had a member in the team who loved it. So we traded. I think that's it's a tough place because who is the boss? Some people ask me from time to time, and I say that I'm private equity holder. I kind of run the business like a CEO, but I don't want to be seen as the person who's going to tell you if you know better, you better tell me. That's the mindset, and that means that some of the functions, like you say, accounting and legal, and even managing the people's time. So the way we solve the HR problem is maybe an interesting one to talk to, because we have no leave policy. So basically, what happens is if you feel that you need time off, you take it off and you tell me, and you trade with another member of the team who's going to take some effort off your shoulders, or if there's maybe, let's say we've got a client delivery or we've got a product release that's coming up and you
Yeah.
need to take some time, you trade with somebody in the team. You don't ask permission. And if you
You
come to me and you
ensure the work is taken care of. That's your job.
say,
When it's being taken care of, you can go and take care of what you need to come back.
but if
They're
there's
going to expect from you.
yeah, and I don't think, and this is, so imagine this is quite a tough decision to make now. So somebody comes to me and say, I need to take the time off, and nobody wants to take the slack. Now we have to make a decision together. How important is it for you to go away? And I say, yes, it is. You don't have to explain more. I believe you and I trust you. Trust first principle. We will assign financial resources to find somebody who's going to do this. And we then invest. We call it invest while you're away, and you can go do the thing. So our whole team take the time that they need because we're all on a journey together.
Yeah.
And I think if I could scale that, David, that is going to be my absolute dream to get right.
And you can. Tell me what issues you're running into now that are getting in the way of scaling. And let's talk through a couple of them if we can, because these don't just apply to people who are non-hierarchical kinds of organizations. The principles are the same. It's actually the attitude of hierarchy, assuming that higher up means you've got authority to dictate, that undermines your ability to scale. That creates a bottleneck that stops everything. So
Yeah.
hierarchies who succeed to scale well and healthy actually live the same principles that you're talking about, and they push down, and they never allow someone to put the monkey on their back, or in other words, like the buck stops here. No, that was yours. The teams, the accountability is yours. You tell me your plan. You figure it out, right? I'm
Yeah,
here to
yeah,
bring resource. That's it. Now get out there and do it.
yeah.
so,
Yeah, no.
so tell us, what issue are you dealing with now?
So maybe I can. I've created a thinking process around this, and I find that because we're in different time zones, we've got people scattered around the world. You really need to rely on your own decisioning to find a person and work jointly with them to find a person who is self motivated and can get to a point where they deliver what they need to deliver because the accountability is decentralized. And in doing that, what happens is that I need to find people who can tell me when they are not interested anymore. I want a person to come to me and say to me, I don't fit here anymore. I'm ready to move on. And to be able to do it in a way that is safe for them and for us, that you can then assist them with a journey that might not be exactly part of where you're at. Because I think what happens with people going on these journeys, they become, and I think most people we talk to and we try to employ are instruction dependent. That's the language we created. Instruction dependency in companies that are very hierarchical, the way you explained it, I love it because that's what happens, isn't it? People become dependent on my boss have
That's
told
right.
me to do this and I'm going to go do that. Very few people wake up every day and say, if I understand this vision that I'm partaking in, what can I do truly that contributes to the success? People often just say, no, I don't care. Most people maybe don't care. I don't know if that's true for most people, but that's kind of what we found in the job market, anyway, in the world, it seems, that people just want to be told, give me the job, I'll get it done. It's a project that's finished. Our world's not about a project. Our customers don't expect us to be around for one phase. We are embedded in the core models and the revenue generation of their companies. We help them engage with their customers reliably. They want to be able to rely on us and trust us deeply. So how do I get the people to get that all the time so they can naturally then decide where things
Yeah.
need to go for themselves? I find that particularly tough.
Well, um, and it's such a key for all of us, isn't it? In our businesses, in our homes, and our communities, there's some similarity in there. It doesn't mean they have to quit something, but like, how do we help them buy into the vision or co-create the vision with us in such a way that ownership is deep, that if they perceived they were a mismatch, that they would offer and say, it's time for me to go. And how do we make that safe for them? Because it's all nice to live in fairyland, but they have a mortgage, or they have an alimony payment, or they've got whatever debts, whatever obligations, whatever future dreams that they're setting aside for, that disrupting this now could disrupt hopes that they had for the future. And so there's this kind of give and take. And I'm going to go a little crazy, a little fast, just because, Jay, you've thought through a lot already, and I don't think I need to get to underpinnings of anything. And our time's a little short. Are you okay if I just throw some ideas at you
Yes,
instead
love
of
to.
coaching? Like a good coach would ask questions, but I'm not a good coach today. So let's think through this.
Okay.
Don't we go through I mean, we go through so much to make sure we bring on the right person. Do we have as solid of a process and way to ensure we exit people well? And let me give an example. What if we had built into our system, in order to make a system, you're talking about work, first, the vision has to be solid and known. Jay has to be the CEO, but that's not the chief executive. I'm talking about the chief evangelist. Okay, so you have to be the chief evangelist officer, always sharing the vision, always talking about it, always leaning into it, always pulling it out of them, getting them to share. You're basically creating a revival in your business all the time that people feel it deeply and passionately. That's your job. So you have to do that, number one. And if it's not in every interaction you have with your team, you're missing something. So that's first. And most of us are not doing that. But when we do, it has a powerful impact. So when that's there, then this is not the answer for everyone. I know that. But let's pretend. What if everybody on the team always had we have $5,000 here if you come and voluntarily quit? What's the 5,000 do? Maybe it's not big enough. Maybe for your team, it has to be 10,000. I need something large enough that they say, I can safely move if I change. And if I'm not taking the 10,000 within their hearts and minds, they're investing every day $10,000 into your business. So if you had 10 grand sitting there, if you quit, the 10 grand is yours. Now, I wouldn't have this necessarily for every role if I was, but you've outsourced all of the other stuff. We're talking about core, strategically core positions, and people have 10 grand sitting there. And then what if we had an outplacement thing? When you come and you tell us you've got the 10 grand and we're going to spend a month and a half, we have an outsourced group. It's not core to your business, but we have an outsourced group that's doing nothing more than placing you in your next role, because you were part of the family always, even when we exit you. Now it's a safe. All I'm trying to do is remove the psychological barrier for them to have to, because instead they're hoping, they're like, maybe on this project I'll win. No, maybe on this project I'll win. And all the project teams are not like, they don't like working with them. And now the team's starting to say, Jay, we got the wrong person on the bus here. And Jay's like, I mean, but they're passionate about the purpose, I think. Why are they hanging around? They feel like they're failing everywhere. I need to make it safe for them to leave. So total brainstorm, and I'm not saying it's the right idea, but what
Yeah,
can
no,
we do to create safety?
I can definitely relate to that. And if I think that if we had to just externalize it for a moment, if I can deflect it,
Yeah,
following what happened with OpenAI and Sam and his team and how that was handled, at least what was leaked into the public, what we saw. I don't know if you followed what
yeah,
happened at OpenAI's, getting rid of a person in a business like that. That is exactly what we don't want to do. If I had to just say it, like many people that we've discussed this with, you want to be able to know that if you're going to communicate with somebody, you want to give them, because they are professionals in their own right, you want to give them a soft landing. And I'm not sure that's the right language or maybe the appropriate language for this kind of thing, but you want to give them a space where they feel that they are still, they belong somewhere, maybe not in this area, maybe they belong in a different area in the business, and they need to decide themselves. And I think that maybe when we look in the mirror every day, we ask the question, am I still the right person? And if I think about it as a CEO of the business, I mean, I question myself. I think, am I
yeah,
doing the right things? Am I actually taking the actions that are going to be good for this team? They're relying on me to make it financially successful, to get it going. Am I doing that?
yeah.
And can we get the team to do that? Yeah.
And one of the other keys in there, that the hierarchy organization, if instead of thinking it around tasks that people performed, if you inverted it and you thought about it as structure to support people in what they're doing, maybe you have built this in. But every 5 to 8 people or so should have somebody that is on a weekly basis sitting down and listening to them, seeing them for who they are as a person, for what they're doing now and where they may be stuck, and helping them to find resources and to where they want to go in 6 months, a month, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 10 years from now, and it's
Yeah.
championing them. And so that one-on-one time that happens on a weekly basis is a way to stop and see how deep is the vision in this person. And
Yeah.
if the person's a part of it just because it sounds like cool work and that's about it, we've got the wrong person. And if they're not self-selecting out, we owe it to the rest of the team to say, it's time for us to look at your next role outside of the business.
Yeah.
And you really can do it that way. You can do it maintaining dignity of that person, creating loyalty in everyone else who's left behind because they see how someone who didn't fit was treated as they were exited. In fact, creating advocates. Just in the last 2 or 3 months, we've had members of our community send us thank you letters. And one person even brought cookies, funny enough. Sent
That's
thank
great.
you letters from these were people who they'd fired who thanked the business for how they treated them through the process and all along the way. And everyone's like, what? Really? You fired him? I fired him. But there's a way to do it that creates advocacy out there, that creates positivity. Those individuals are connected to the communities you want to be in touch with. And the investment beyond, right? What is our ecosystem that that we're supporting? Uh, Here's a big play for. So those are a couple of thoughts. You don't have to
No.
use a hierarchy, but if you think in a support system, who is meeting with them one-on-one and cares for their long-term success?
Yes.
Even though they're moving project teams to project teams and the accountability is decentralized, which, let's be honest, what we really mean is ownership is in everyone
Yes.
and it belongs at a team level at the time, right? That's kind of how that's moving, which is
Yes.
awesome. Do they have support? Is the vision clear because the chief evangelist officer is doing his or her job the way they need to, right? And do we have psychological and physical safety for them to act like a business owner and know when to quit? Let's open up some of those opportunities if that's what you want to create and scale at the same time.
So here's a question on that. If you have a core team and you want them to kind of lead from the inside out, and the external support doesn't have to come from the person that is the chief evangelist officer, or should they just get it from a person that can guide them that's maybe not in the core at all? Because I find that we often draw these boundaries around things that have happened along the way that get people to be negative or anti a certain situation that might affect their thinking, and you might be unknowingly so be biased about what you're going to maybe talk to them about or how you're going to influence them. And I think I've seen this in so many, even in my clients, I see this all the time where that happens, and we've been trying to avoid that. I
Yeah.
mean, that's
So that is a great question. I mean, we're basically saying, so should they have a manager or should they have a mentor? And are the mentors ones they can just seek out?
yes,
And I would say this is not a mutually exclusive kind of thing.
it's
They don't have
both.
to be
Yeah,
managed, but they should have someone who has long-term accountability to see that these people succeed. And there'll be individuals in your group who love to help others succeed. It's a natural draw for who they are. Let's give them the opportunity. And let's give them some recognition around that that's a project, a very important project within the business, right? We're doing all these cool things with the clients. Are we doing some cool things for each other? Are we organizing around that
yeah.
and
But
allowing them to do that? And then let those individuals find mentors. The mentors are neat because they can choose a mentor in a tech space, someone who understands a certain government, so insights, knowledge, intelligence, skill-based mentors that they swap all over the place. Or they may have someone that they're emulating, that they want to be like, that they hold to for a long time, and they can have mutually beneficial relationships. I
yeah.
say let those flourish and encourage them.
So
But
here's a
if you don't know everyone's being nurtured and
Yeah,
cared for, then we're holding some things back, and we should build a project team around nurturing and
yeah.
building our team for the future. So those are
So
some
yes,
thoughts.
to test something with you on language, right? So as a products business, we separate products and product lines from projects. So what I've been trying to achieve is almost versioning the business. If you
Yeah,
can think of, like, this is our business operating system, and
yeah,
we've
yeah.
gone through versions, and we know that when there's a version change, we need to do an upgrade, and we need to get people on the journey. So I've been using that kind of thinking to kind
Yes.
of guide the team. So so along that journey, the challenge is that when you upgrade, and you want to get that person to take the right actions, or any of the team, and you want to bring new people in, because we're now moving into a phase in our business where we are bringing new people in, and I have this conflict between the team who's been there, who's lived through the in the trenches early stages of the business, and you got people who come in who is almost expecting a structure to be there for them because that's the stage that they at. And now you have this, I can control my own life, and you're not going to get me, because we don't do timesheets for our team or anything. I mean, because the principle of what we do is trust based, and now we got the new people who expect that to be there for them. They're going to need that guardrail, that focus to get to now, and that's going to be our next phase challenge, by the way, because we're busy going through a cycle now of bringing people into the team, and that means that that conflict of this new and the old, I think, is what always has been interesting to me, because if I find that I listened to some very early Steve Jobs video, maybe this one, last comment on this whole thing, and I always thought about it, because he said that maybe the one mistake I made in leadership was not giving some people enough time. And it still bugs me, because I think maybe I'm the person who give enormous amount of time, maybe some too much sometimes. And how do you know? I mean, you just, it can't come from you. It must come from them, isn't it?
Yeah, if it's coming from you, it's limiting, and always will be. Um, yeah, I wish I could give you answers to all of these questions, but I can't. But I do know, on the version you're at right now, versioning your company, the size that you shared. I mean, you've got 22 or so dispersed core kind of group, plus you've got some outsourced functions being taken care of out there. That means you're managing them, working with them, doing all of that. That puts you closer around the 30 mark, 25 to 35 kind of real people that are working on your business all the time or in it. And a major shift that has to happen now is, how does Jay consistently and regularly build leaders fast enough?
Yeah.
It's a bottleneck for you. And so as you puzzle on that, what does leadership look like in the kind of organization you're building? And can we create a dome of protection towards product that they can work one way, and running and administration has to work another way, or not? Maybe it can stay fluid the way we're talking about.
Yeah.
But building leaders fast enough, because your team needs support to continue to flourish, right? They need the resources, the barriers removed. They need people advocating. They need people who have time to see above the level that the teams are working at, to set direction, all of those kinds of things with them. It can be co-created, but someone's got to have time to do it. Someone has to have the foresight and work at it. Any of them could be engaged, but we have to build those leaders fast enough at this time, or we won't scale. So that's just a thing that'll be a number one issue that you're going to deal with in the next little
Yeah.
while.
And you know what
And
makes
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, the thing that then kind of falls on, onto the back of that, is that we haven't built a sales team yet, and we've been relying on our partners only.
Yeah.
And my kind of historical experience with, especially very creative salespeople, is it's very, very, very different than managing an engineering team. I watched, the BlackBerry story recently, and those kind of, if you think of tech companies going through growth spurts and pain, and having different, and it's a bit like, switching from a very engineering based culture to a completely sales based culture. We already have a saying that goes something like this: we only build what companies are buying. But you also want to go where the puck is going to be, not where it is. So you have this conflict of the confidence you have in the future of your product and the inventions that you're working on, that they are going to be commercially safe and successful, or create commercial, safety for the business, and it's going to be successful. And you need to convince the salespeople to now, on the back of that, build out the teams. So we've gone after a partner program. So we at the moment rolling out partners in, we've got New York coming online and other parts of the world coming online, and that is an entirely different ballgame. So that's why I like what you're saying.
That's
you
right.
know job is
You're
building.
right. You're going to be building that out. You're going to be doing all this, and someone's got to be able to lead that, and then someone's got to be able to converse with these people and manage the difference. How do we get the sales really getting the engineers so it doesn't feel like an us them, but
Yeah,
it's all ours, and do they get to mix into some of these teams? I'm
yeah,
curious what you do with it. But again, you're the evangelist. Keep the vision clear. You have to build the leaders now that together can build the structure to support the culture that you want, that is essential for the kind of innovation that you're after. Really great talking with you today,
appreciate
Jay.
it.
And that'll be wrapping up what we're talking about. How do people get in touch with you? Maybe they want to be a partner. Maybe they want to do this. How do they get in touch with Jay?
On our website, we've got our New York office number. And personally, if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I've got, I'll respond to every single message that I get typically, even if I know that some of them are, digital bots. But the thing is that if you are interested in the topic, want to work with us, understand what our tech is doing, if you go to ecosystem.ai or you go to developer.ecosystem.ai, you can go look at some of the technology we're working on. We can share ideas and, what we're doing around the world. But connect with us. Probably LinkedIn is, I think, for us has been the best in a business
Great. Tell
connection.
them your LinkedIn handle then.
So it's just Jay van Zyl, one word, or ecosystem AI. You'll see that if you go to LinkedIn and you search for JayVanZyl, you'll see that there's one. It thinks, I think there's
Perfect.
only one. That's what's quite
Thanks
unique
again.
about my first name last name combination. But and then you'll see that from my profile. There's we've got our company ecosystem link, and then our website that also will point you to this infrastructure.
That's fantastic. Well, that wraps up today's episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast, where we explored the ins and outs of the seven figure journey. Thanks again, Jay, for being on. For all those who liked what we talked about, you found our interesting ideas. Yes, connect with Jay, connect with us, but also share, do what's needed to share to get this to other seven figure business owners so they can be part of this community. Keep learning, keep striving, keep caring and innovating. Until next time.